Okay. Welcome back, everyone. Hello, this is it. It's Facebook Live today with my special guest, Colin Wells. This is Facebook Live side by side. I'm Hadi Nakri. This is, I'm hopefully happy that people are joining the group, and I'm going to be monitoring this. So let's see, has it come up yet? It will do very shortly because we're going through the Be Live app again. Here we go. Right. So at any point, guys, feel free to put in your comments, feel free to put in your likes. If you're in the comment section, you can also share this video out to other people. We are going to be discussing wills today. We're going to be discussing the myths about wills. And again, it's not me who's the expert on this one, but my guest, Colin Wells from Avalon Legal. And Colin, thank you for being part of this today. Special shout out, of course, to all the school teachers and the medics and everyone out there who's delivery drivers, ambulance workers, even the dustbin workers. They're doing a fantastic job. Thank you for your help. So just as a special shout out to you guys. Colin, so let's go into this. Colin, you're from Avalon Legal. Tell us about your company.
Yes, good evening, Hedy. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. Avalon Legal, we are, or rather I am, a bespoke will writer. I'm family friendly. Basically, my time is your time. My appointments are to suit anybody and everybody because I work from, let's say, 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. So I can do evening appointments, afternoon appointments. I've even been known to do weekend appointments for clients who need that extra special touch or who can't take time off during the week. Avalon Legal was born in September 2018, and the name comes from my love of everything medieval and the fact that I'm from the West Country, Avalon being the home of King Arthur.
Is that Somerset or Taunton or Yeovil that you're talking about?
I'm actually from Devon. So I could argue my blood is green because Devon's always green. But no, I'm sorry, I moved from Sutton to Sutton about 30 odd years ago, and here I am in jolly old Sutton in Surrey.
What made you get into wills in general?
About 20 years ago, I was made redundant from an IT company, and it's a long story, but I was at a barbecue with friends, and a gentleman there said, "I need a filing clerk. Are you interested?" Because I was looking for work, and that sort of spurred me on to say yes. I spent six months with them as a filing clerk, and then was asked, would I like to join the firm as a trainee? And the rest, as they say, is history. And here I am heading up my own firm.
I'm glad that you have. So wills side itself came about due to necessity, I suppose. There's been a lot of, how can I put this, controversy about wills in the past. So, and of course, a lot of myths surrounding wills too. One of the big myths is that a will is meant for people who are older and if you are rich. And again, from a mortgage advisor's perspective, I personally disagree with that, and we've all been taught, especially even those who are financial advisors, to disagree with that. But at the end of the day, I'm not the expert, you are. So would you like to clarify or clean up some of these myths?
Yes, of course. Wills are not just for the elderly or just for the rich. They're for everybody over the age of 18, whether they own property, whether in rented property, because everybody has something. You may not know it. You may have savings. You may have a workplace pension. You may have a death in service benefit. Who do you leave it to? Do you leave it to, if you're married, your wife? Do you leave it to your children? If you're unmarried, do you leave it to your partner? Or does it go to the state? The question is, who would you like your money to go to when you pass away? As I previously said, it's not just for the older generation or the rich. It's for people starting out in life who have just got married or just had children or just bought a house. It is a fundamental document that preserves your estate and lets you allocate that estate to who you want it to go to rather than who the state dictates.
And again, wills are they can be amended. They may, whatever your life circumstances are, you should always look to review it. When would you say reviews should take place?
I would say normally every 5 years, unless something major happens. So you could argue the major happenings are you move house, you have a child, you have a death in the family. These sorts of things trigger events, and those events have a knock-on effect. Case in point is, let's say Mrs. Smith is married to Mr. Smith. He passes away, and in his will, he leaves everything to her. That's fine. She inherits everything. But then in her will, she's left everything to him and nobody else. Therefore, you've got a problem, and the rules of intestacy apply, where the estate is given equally to children or grandchildren or cousins. It all depends on the circumstances of that person. However, if Mrs. Smith had said, okay, I don't have children, but I have nephews and nieces, I can leave it to them, and then they will get it rather than possibly my siblings or my cousins who I don't get on with. It's a very important document to have, and it's a document for everybody.
Well, yeah. Again, there's different types of wills as well, but what would you generally advise for someone to get started on?
For somebody to get started on, a very simple will. If you're married, you leave everything to each other. On the second death, you leave everything to your children, and then you have something called a long stop, which means what happens is if, let's heaven forbid, anything happens to the whole family, you know that you've got somebody who is sort of waiting in the wings to come along and say, yes, I am XYZ, the estate is mine. Long stops are very important, as well as leaving everything to the family, because they sweep up the estate and save it from being, as I previously mentioned, save it being distributed to members of the family who you may not get on with. It's exactly the same for contents of property. We all have families or we all know of families who said, I was expecting XYZ, but my siblings went and swept it through and took everything. The will, you can state who has what in terms of personal possessions, or you can leave a letter of wishes. The choice is yours. I prefer a letter of wishes because whilst it's not legally binding, you can dictate to the executors who has what and when. But if you lose an item or an item is broken, you can amend it without redoing during the will.
Has the right? I know with wills, there was a controversy about there's no regulations behind wills, but that isn't. And again, it came about because certain solicitors, certain law firms didn't know exactly how to do a will properly, like having a witness.
Yes.
So what are the sort of key things that you would say, look, keep these in mind when you are looking at doing a will, how to go about doing a will?
Okay. Key points are who your executors are going to be. Normally, I say husband, wife, partner. And then if you have children under the age of 18, two others. They can be friends, they can be siblings, they can be parents. The other thing is, do you wish to be buried or cremated? Now, we probably all heard on the news last night that the right to body donation has been amended so that you have to
everyone's a legal donor. Sorry.
Yeah, you have to opt out of organ donation. That's something you need to consider. I believe there is a government website, or there's some website where you can put your choices in, but it may be beneficial to include that in your funeral requirements as to whether you need to be buried or cremated. The other thing is guardians. Children under the age of 18 need a legal guardian when parents pass away. Now, it can be older children, it can be friends, it can be relatives, but you need to think carefully as to who you'd like as your guardian. If you have a child over the age of 16, the chances are they may not want a guardian, and they may decide to stay in the property themselves. So these are things that the court take into account when appointing guardians. The final thing you need to think about, or the most important thing you think about, is where you want your estate to go, who you want it to go to. If you're married, you obviously want it to go to your wife and your children to maximize inheritance tax. But then what happens if you all go together? Where would you like it to go? If you're in a relationship and you've got children, do you want your partner to inherit the estate, or do you want your children to have, or do you want your partner to have a life interest in the property? So that property automatically passes to your children on a certain age. The permutations are vast and varied. There are clauses, standard clauses or tailored clauses for every situation.
Well, here's one for yourself. And again, I used to call it, the terminology was power of attorney, lasting powers of attorney, especially if your mental faculties start to deteriorate over a period of time. I think it's now called everlasting power of attorneys. I'm not totally sure. It's been a while since I've checked.
You have lasting powers of attorney, and you have a general power of attorney. Now, I'll start with the general power of attorney because that is the simpler one. The general power of attorney is appointing somebody whilst you're still mentally competent,
right,
to handle your affairs. Let's say you go overseas for a period of time. You can appoint somebody under a general power of attorney to act on your behalf in relation to your affairs in the UK whilst you can't handle them.
Right. Okay.
The lasting power of attorney, there are two. There's property and finance and health and welfare. Now, property and finance, as it says, is your house, your bank account, your pension, your building society accounts, anything that has a value. The health and welfare is your medical needs. But under that medical needs also comes care homes. So the lasting power of attorney comes into effect from when it's signed and registered at the Office of the Public Guardian. However, I suggest to clients who take these out to put it in their sock drawer and forget about it until they become mentally incapable of handling their own affairs.
Right.
Now,
of course, making someone aware of it first, making someone aware.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people say to me, how do I know that I'm incapable of handling my own affairs? And one of the common clauses that are put in by practitioners is that the lasting power of attorney is not to be acted upon until the donor, who is the person who's making the power, is deemed to be incapable by either a consultant psychologist or the GP or somebody else who has knowledge of that person, but also has knowledge of mental health conditions.
Yeah, so an expert, a medical expert.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's very important. And again, for all those people out there who are watching this, and again, feel free, add a comment, guys. This is here for you. This is all for you guys. We're part of this group, so you can network with one another, but also get good, competent advice from the right people for the right areas. So if you've got any questions, feel free, put them in here. This is what this is about. Right now I'll be asking more of the questions. We've had some views on here so far, and again, thank you so much, guys, for viewing this. Feel free, get involved. There was something else I wanted to approach. Now we've talked about powers of attorney. We talked about everlasting powers of attorney, general powers of attorney, health, welfare, property, all those kinds of things.
Yes.
So, and like what you said, how does a person know? This leads to something else, where in the past, again, as a mortgage advisor, sometimes we ideally, when a person buys a property, or when two people buy a property as a family unit, they're looking to have a family, they're looking to be together over a long period of time. But things happen along the way, and sometimes the fairy tale, people awaken from it and it becomes a very nasty reality. So divorce takes place, and then ultimately partners meet up again with separate partners, and then they have their own families. In the middle of that, you've got the children from the original marriage. Sideways disinheritance. This is the terminology that stuck in my mind for a long period of time, and for me, it's kind of sad and shocking because it can take place in this day and age. Now, what I want to establish is that during this time period, marriage is one thing. What about when it's just a relationship? There isn't marriage involved. It may not even be a civil partnership. It's just, you know what? That's my boyfriend. That's my girlfriend. We had, children. The relationship broke down. It's absolutely fine. We moved on. We made a will. He made a will to make sure our kids are looked after. But then he got with another woman, had the other kids. I got another with a guy, had the other kids. My son stays with me though. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
What happens in this scenario? What do you do as a woman in that sense? Is it null and void? Do you start again? Can you do a course to do it?
To be honest with you, it is a very grey area, and I would suggest you start all over again. It happens in marriages too.
Yeah.
A person dies, the surviving spouse meets somebody else and marries. You get the same situation. It's always advisable to start again from the beginning and think about where you want it to go. That way you don't get the disinheritance of first children. The first children share in the estate with their half brothers, half sisters, etc. So it's always advisable to say, okay, let's start again.
And again,
this is one of those circumstances where it's a life-changing event. So move on, start again, and don't cut out former children, because if you do, they could then come back to you and say, okay, or come back to the executors or the administrators and say, why wasn't I included in the estate? And then they can make a claim, which we've all heard the stories where estates have been wiped out because people have made a claim against the estate.
Well, I remember when I started off in my mortgage career. Again, yes, it is that kind of story. But one of the things that stuck in my mind and really scared the living daylights out of me was when a client came to me, prospective client, first time buyer. She was very young. Her and her boyfriend were going to get together. Her grandma had 14 properties at the time. And she, we got to the part about, have you made a will? Are you looking to make a will? Those kinds of things within the fact find. And she started to go into tears. I was wondering what's going on here. And then she started explaining the story, which was her grandma had 14 properties and her aunt didn't get her to sign the will. She deliberately stopped her from signing the will, and then she died intestate.
Yeah.
So from those 14 properties, after the government had done everything that they needed to, this was at the time, this was 2007, 2000, that sort of time. Wow, that many years ago, huh? She said that they were only left with 2 properties after all the fees and everything was taken into account, because there was no life insurance to take care of the inheritance tax. There was no will to divide up the properties, to put it into trust, and so it's outside of the estate, those kinds of things. And could there have been anything that could have happened to change that situation? Because there are going to be property investors out there that may not have a family currently, but it's their estate. What do they do to protect themselves?
Okay, that situation is quite common. I've heard of, and I've had cases where people have deliberately stopped relatives from signing will because it doesn't favour them, or it favours them too much, or it's very hard to put into words. But when there's inheritance involved, people become greedy.
Yeah.
I always remember hearing a conversation, and again, Mrs. Smith passed away. The first thing the son did was, when do I get my money? On the day of the funeral, when do I get my money? People have an expectation, and I'm afraid it's down to American TV and things like Perry Mason, where people read a will in front. They sit around a big oak desk, they read a will,
and
then there's, for want of a better word, fisticuffs or arguments about it. I've been practicing for 19 years. And I've read one will in that 19 years, and that was because the lady who I was reading it to was actually blind.
Right.
People have a misconception. People think they get everything immediately. And I know we're going slightly off piece, but it's nice to let people know that an estate can take anything between 6 months and years.
Well, it's good to go off piste in this sense because this is relevant. There's a lot of people, especially in this mortgage advising group, that will be in this kind of situation. They'll be a lot older. They'll have more property. They may have unencumbered property, no mortgage on the property whatsoever, but they have not made the relevant documents put into place, any wills put into place. And there's accountants out there that don't understand inheritance tax laws. There's solicitors out there who think a basic will is just good enough, and it does need to be a little bit more than when you look into it more deeper. It needs proper financial planning. It needs a proper will writer to make sure that it's not null and void.
That's it. And the Chancery Division of the High Court, they get more probate claims than anything because people are unhappy with the way they've been left things. A will writer, as a will writer, we are constantly updating our knowledge. I've just got the latest handbook from the Society of Will Writers.
Yeah.
It's a very heavy tome. I can use the last one as a doorstop. They're that big. One thing I will say is for people out there, I am regulated.
That's the other big thing as well. That, like what you said, Society of Will Writers, and I think there was the Institute of Will Writers as well. So there is a regulated office, whereas there was at one point, I found around 5-6 years ago, will writers were going to be looked at in the same way as PPI. And they were looking at that as the next growth area for suing people. The wills weren't written correctly. The memorandum and wishes were not put into place. So therefore, I didn't get what should have been mine, that kind of thing. So I'm going to sue, the solicitor or the will writer. I'm going to sue the estate. And I think that's what you was talking about when you was talking about the claims to probate, because the wills weren't written clearly in the first place.
Yes, people make mistakes, but they can be rectified. The thing that annoys me to a certain extent are the ones that pop up on television at the moment, advert notes, something like Quill, and I'm sorry I'm name dropping, it's the only one I can think of at the moment, who say, we can do your will for £49. Not a human, it's a computer. I like to get to know my clients. I will sit with a client for anything from half an hour to an hour or even longer because I want to get to know the person. I want to get to know what makes them tick, what their likes are, what their dislikes are, and become part of their social circle to a certain extent, but more so because I want to get to know them so that I know where I can help them.
I'm just checking some of the comments. We've already had some more shares as well, so this is going out there. So thank you for sharing, whoever's sharing. Again, this will be on here on my group page, and I'll also be sharing it out as well. Just what can I say? The heat has got me feeling very lazy today.
I know. Yeah.
See, this is the kind of time where we should all be out in the bars and all the rest of it, and drinking cocktails or beers or wherever it is. I don't drink any of that, by the way.
True.
Yeah, but we're on lockdown still, I believe. I know it's easing a little bit, but guys, please be safe when you're out there. As the government would say, stay alert. I don't know what that actually means, but whatever works. So moving on from this. So we've established these kinds of things that at any point you should be getting the will. You can amend your wills, even if the relationship breaks down, you can start again with the wills. Oh,
yes.
As it sound? Yeah. Okay. Good. Sound's still there. So the question I want to follow up with next is going to be a tough one, and again, it's going to be individual, but the general cost of a will.
The general cost of a will depends on the will writer. As I've already said, internet, £49
Hmm.
a computer. Solicitors firms in top areas, you're talking a lot of money.
Hmm.
My fees are on my website. I'm
Yeah.
very transparent what I charge. If anybody's interested, they can find it on my website, which I'll give later. But my fees are there. They are
Yeah.
fixed. There are no extras, apart from if I'm seeing a client over 5 miles, then there will be a mileage charge
Yeah.
because it's diesel in my car to come out to the client. So, yep, as I say, I am very transparent with my fees. They're all on the website. They haven't altered since March of last year. I don't intend putting them up. And for key workers, under the government guidelines, that's any key worker, I'm offering a 25% discount.
Okay, we'll put that out there.
Yeah,
We'll put that
so,
out there.
yeah. Yeah, that's it basically. I'm not going to give my fees over the internet
No,
because
of course.
my fees are personal to me. But as I say, people can find them on my website, which is www.avalon legal.org.
And we will also put that out there as well on
Or
the
you can
replays.
find us on Facebook, on Instagram, um, on Twitter.
Hmm.
So we do like to saturate the market in terms of marketing. I am very grateful to my wife Karen, who does all my marketing for me, who shares everything that we do. Without her, I wouldn't have a company. So yeah.
Yeah, and Karen, thank you so much for helping organize this as well. I know, I had a chat with Karen as well about this before getting in contact yourself. So this is how we managed to get things happening here. And again, I appreciate your time to do this
Yep.
and be a part of this. It's not easy, especially at this time, with current circumstances and a lot more people getting further and further, the death count is going up daily. We know that, but we're not going to go into the politics side here. The main thing is that if anyone needs to review a will, let me ask you a quick question. That's actually the final one, which is someone's got a will.
Yes.
Can they come to you to review it rather than be with someone else?
Yes.
Okay, so that's fine.
I'm
And the
happy.
reason
I am happy to look at people's wills if they've done it and they want to review it. I haven't decided whether to make a nominal charge. Normally, I would charge if people come to me to rewrite their wills. So yeah, I'm happy to look at people's wills for them and make recommendations based on the current guidelines in terms of inheritance, etc.
Yeah, and again, the reasons can be quite simple. People retire, people move on to other industries, those kinds of things. So you have what some financial advisors would like to call them as orphan clients because they've got no one left, or what I'd like to call them is established clients because they actually went out there and done something. So they just need someone to help them with the final touch-ups, so to speak. So that's actually quite good to know. So you've got your social media pages out there. We will also put all those bits and pieces on. So Avalon Legal is the main thing. Whereabouts are you based? You're based in Sutton.
I'm based in Sutton and Surrey, yes. So
Sutton, sorry, yeah. Fantastic. And thank you so much for being a part of this. Guys, if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask them even afterwards. Colin is available to be contacted. You can contact him on his website, which is www.avalon-legal.
No, Avalon Legal, all one word.
Avalon Legal, all one word, .co.uk.
No, .org.
.org.
Yes.
www.avalonlegal.org.
That's it.
I got there in the end.
Nice one.
And thank you guys for joining in today. Tomorrow, when I do my Facebook Live, just me solo, is only going to be about shared ownership properties. First-time buyers, even if you are moving on into a shared ownership property, how to get, more importantly, how to get paid off, and staircasing downwards, upwards, how to sell, how to move on. The whole shebang is going to be covered. So I hope you can join me for that tomorrow, guys. Thank you so much, Colin, for being a part of this.
Thank you for having me.
Again, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Take care, everyone.